Welcome back to Tony Hobbs wild camping tips section. One question I keep never getting asked, so I thought I wouldn't answer it anyway, is about clothing. You know, what clothing do you really need? Do you need spare clothing? And if you've packed carefully and sensibly, I don't think you do need spare clothing, but you need to have plenty of clothing that covers every single eventuality. I'm not going to go through brands in this video because that just complicates everything and really just takes up unnecessary time. Obviously MLT shelters. So let's start at the top on the outside. Now, very clearly, for most part of the year, you do need a waterproof jacket. That clearly, especially in England, Wales, Scotland, etc., goes without saying that 95% of the time when you're camping or maybe even hiking, you need a good waterproof jacket. This is a Rab super lightweight, Rab jacket. This is a very old pair of Burgess Paclite waterproof trousers. Now, I wouldn't mention brands, didn't I? It makes no difference. I'm not affiliated with any of them. But when it's very, very warm in the middle of summer and you're camping, you might get away, as I have done in the past, with just a poncho to cover yourself in case it rained when it probably wouldn't. And if you can, I don't know if Ron still does these, a bit of a tip for Ron. Ron, if you're still making kilts, get some more kilts made. Because when it's very, very warm and sunny in the summer and there's very little chance of rain, I don't take my waterproof trousers. I just bring a kilt. It's so light, packs down absolutely tiny, and is more than adequate for summer use. So from a shell point of view, clearly you need waterproof tops and bottom, generally speaking. That goes without saying. Now, the next layer down, as it were, or that you could argue it's the next layer up, is an insulated jacket. Now, you do need most of the year to have an insulated jacket. Now, the jacket you use could be down or synthetic. It can be thick, thin, depending on the time of the year. So you need to pick your jacket according to the time of the year and clearly, the weather. I tend to use PhD. Right, now, this is where it starts to get, this is where it can start to cross over a tiny, tiny bit. Now, I like to wear, because it's a bit cool and a bit breezy here, I like to wear a t-shirt. Now, this is a merino t-shirt. It's a short sleeve merino t-shirt. I would take one of these 99% of my trips, and if I'm not wearing the merino t-shirt, then I will wear a long sleeve shirt to cover my arms as protection. I like a loose long sleeve shirt where I can lift up the collar like that, protects the neck and everything else like that. So if I'm out in the sun all day long, a loose shirt. I'm a very shirty person. I don't get shirty, but I'm a very shirty person, so I do like a shirt. So if I'm wearing a shirt, I'll either have a t-shirt under it for additional warmth, or I will take a t-shirt, and I'll explain why. On this trip, because it's still April and therefore a little bit cool, I like to always have in my dry bag with my sleeping bag a base layer, so that if I get wet, and you shouldn't, but if I get wet, I always want to have in with my sleeping bag as a minimum one base layer. Now in the summer that would be my t-shirt. This time of the year, when it's sort of April, and today it wasn't needed, but this is a long sleeved merino zipped base layer, which in itself probably wouldn't be enough because I'm a very cold sleeper, but add on a down jacket, and even if you're not, you know, very hot inside your sleeping bag, you know, those two minimum things combined inside your sleeping bag will, you know, keep you warm. I also always bring a fleece. Now again, this can be dependent on the time of year. So I never bring two fleeces, I never bring two t-shirts, two shirts, two base layers. I only ever bring one of each, but I vary according to the weather and the time of the year. Sometimes I might leave something behind if it's, you know, very, very warm. So I always bring a fleece. Now, of course, a fleece in the winter I'd be wearing. This time of the year, I wasn't sure whether I would need it or not. As it turned out, I did not need the fleece at all, and I did not need this long sleeve base layer at all this trip. But it's better to, it's not spare, but it's just pieces that you might need if something gets wet and then you need something to wear when you're sleeping. Because I didn't get wet, I just stayed in my shirt and my t-shirt. Another piece that I find absolutely invaluable to wear is a wind shirt. Now this is very, very useful for when you're walking. It's super light, takes up very little space, but it will keep off a very small shower, and I like to sleep in it. And as long as it's dry, if it was wet then you couldn't, of course, but as long as it's dry, it's nice to sleep in. Because I have very airy open shelters, and this is windproof. Obviously the sleeping bag protects most of me from the wind. This can protect my head, shoulders and that if I need to put the hood up. So those are like your main outer layers of clothing. Now, I always work it out as you need 6 outer items to take with you. So in my instance, I've probably got a tiny bit more. So as a minimum, you need a base layer, you need an outer layer, which in my instance is a shirt, but you might get away with something like this. So that's 1, 2, 3. I've got a fleece, 4, a wind shirt, 5, a down jacket, 6, and the waterproof jacket, 7. Now, traditionally, they say that you need 6 items: base layer, mid layer, fleece, wind shirt, down jacket, and a waterproof. And that's your 6 items. And that should be enough for anything you do, because you're not going to be using them all at the same time usually. But like I said, whilst I don't pack spare, I do like to have in my dry bag at least one item of clothing that can go under the down jacket so I can sleep in it. So I don't have spare clothing, but I always have enough to cover anything that's likely to happen weather-wise. And that's the top sorted out, and obviously trousers. Now, I always bring, well, I say I always bring 2 pairs of socks. That's strictly speaking not true. I actually tend to bring 3 pairs of socks, and I'll explain. And I can't find my other pair of socks. Okay. I tend to bring 3 pairs of socks. Now this is my nighttime socks. So these are merino socks, and they're super lightweight, and they go in with the rucksack, in with the sleeping bag. and they stay within the sleeping bag range. This is my walking socks, and I only ever bring one pair of walking socks. I don't bring a second pair of walking socks. If they're going to get wet, they're going to get wet, and that's the end of it. And I do have a habit of bringing sealskin socks. Now this is the smallest, lightest pair that they do. They're actually probably a bit too small for me. I wouldn't walk in these. What these are for is if my feet have got wet during the day and I want to walk around camp, when I get into camp, I don't want my nighttime socks getting wet. I don't want to be putting on wet socks. So I just put the sealskin socks on, and then if I need to walk around camp, I can just whip my shoes on, go and have a pee or whatever it is I need to do, and then get back into camp. Now the other thing to just bear in mind, one, I'm no expert. I've been doing it for like nearly 10 years, but I'm not an expert. This is just what I do. Secondly, I camp by myself most of the time. Other people, if you're camping in a group of people, or with friends, you might want something a bit warmer because you might be sitting outside in the cold longer. My kit is really designed to get me to camp and into the sleeping bag, generally speaking, as quickly as possible. I'm not going to be standing around outside gas bagging and chatting for hours and hours in wet rain or wind or freezing cold weather. So basically my kit is to get me to camp and into the sleeping bag where I can warm up and eat and drink and watch a film. I tend to bring, and again this is season dependent, in the winter I will probably put in an extra hat in case. I bring one hat for nighttime use, and I will wear this during the night to keep my head warm. And I might bring a combination of hats, something lightweight, just for daytime use, just maybe like a beanie hat, and maybe something with a little peak on it or something like that when it's cold. That'll keep most warmth in. So hats, I will probably bring like something like a beanie hat, and maybe just something with a little peak on it, maybe for winter, you know, for when it's cold but not freezing cold. Clearly this isn't going to be good in the middle of winter in Scotland, but when it's quite cool and you just want something to cover your head and your ears, a bit of protection from the sun, something that I find quite useful. I usually bring a buff, but very rarely use it. Again, it's so light, it doesn't really take up any space, but I tend to bring it just in case. I always bring leggings. These are Icebreaker 150. So again, like I said, whilst I don't carry spare clothing, I do have clothing in my dry bag with the sleeping bag that will cover me head to foot. So when I get into the sleeping bag, I've got socks for dry feet, leggings for dry legs, a hat to put on my head. Obviously I have as a minimum a t-shirt, which I'm wearing now, or a base layer of some description, so my whole body is covered. And then obviously a down jacket to keep my body warm. So I have clothing. It's still pretty much the 6-ish pieces that you need, but it covers head to foot, day and night, with doing it this way. I might add in like a 7th piece. Waterproof gloves, very rarely use these. I've been quite lucky with the weather and we haven't been out so much, but waterproof mittens. Personally, I prefer an over mitt over gloves. I think they're easier, safer than a waterproof glove. I've had problems with waterproof gloves in the past. I did bring a lightweight balaclava with me this trip in case it was cold at night. Wasn't needed. And I brought another pair of, and I brought a pair of wind block, wind pro gloves when I was walking into camp again. They weren't needed, but I hadn't been camping for months, so I wasn't sure what the weather was like. And that is pretty much it. So I don't think you need spare clothing, but I do think that you need to have clothing which covers your head to foot twice, and generally speaking you can kind of, you know, combine the two, sort of. So I hope that's oh, I think I showed you these lightweight gloves. And again, I packed these lightweight gloves in so that when I'm in camp, if my daytime gloves got wet, again, I'm covered from head to foot, including my hands, with gloves for in camp as well. This time of the year, I only brought the one pair of gloves. Again, in the middle of winter, you know, you probably do want to be packing a second or even maybe a third pair of gloves, because gloves are notorious for getting wet. So in winter, you might want 2 or 3 pairs of gloves. But on this trip, I just brought one for walking. I didn't even need them. These I did use in camp for the first hour or so once it got dark, because it started to get a bit cool. And that's it pretty much in a nutshell. I think that turned out to be a bit of a longer video than I was originally planning, but I hope that that's helpful and useful in deciding, you know, what clothing to take. You don't need to take tons. Take enough. Basically, you need your 6 pieces. Run down it again super quick. You need your base layer, your mid layer. So base layer is like a t-shirt, mid layer could be like a lightweight merino or shirt or something. Your fleece, your waterproof, your windproof, and your insulated jacket to go over the top. And that's like your 6 main pieces. And those 6 pieces, when I did the TGO challenge with Chris, going back, goodness only knows how many years that was now, 6 years ago, goodness gracious. Anyway, that was all I took. I did half of a 2-week walk across Scotland. That's when I actually did some walking back then. And I just took the 6 main pieces with me. I might have put a spare t-shirt in, given that it was supposed to be 2 weeks rather than the week I actually did. So I might have put in one extra t-shirt, but I didn't take any more than what I have here with me now. And that's it. If you've got this far, thanks for watching. Check out the affiliate links to Amazon below. I would be appreciative if you can purchase something from Amazon. Let's get a little kickback for myself. Please like, subscribe, share this channel, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.